Soccer player too?
Yeah, Alec and I played at Florida Southern together.
Okay.
All right. And we are live. Welcome to episode 4 of the Salience Project, where we discuss tools and protocols to increase and improve people's salience skills. Just to go over saliency. Saliency detection is considered to be the key attentional mechanism that facilitates learning and survival by enabling organisms to focus their limited perceptual cognitive resources to the most pertinent subset of available sensory data. The goal of our podcast that Alexi and I have been speaking of for the past few weeks is to help people build a better internal relationship with their self, their internal voice, and to have their internal voice help decode their mission, their goals, their identity in life, so that they can decipher what makes them feel more alive. And we've done this by using different protocols and tools to give people more data points so that we can actually track, okay, this day I've been feeling great because I was doing this, this, and this. And we've been also talking about the identity piece, the neurocircuitry, the neuromodulators that go along with them. We understand that consciousness is a bottom-up sovereignty tool. It creates salience in our own bodies and drives our behavior towards long-term reward circuitry. The main focuses for better choices, we have understood to be mindfulness and discipline. So you are in control of your life, and it's very important for you to understand that using these tools and being disciplined about what you do in your life and the decisions that you make can help guide you towards a better, more rewarding, fulfilling life. We want to build interoceptive habits that can help change lifestyle behaviors to become more optimal versions of ourselves, and so we can feel comfortable in our own skin. And finally, identity for us is the being, doing, becoming sequence, so that we can build character traits that identify with our plot, that can plot the course for our own lives, and we can be the heroes of our journey. Lexi, did I miss anything?
I think you got it all.
All right, cool. I'm really excited for today's podcast. We have a special guest. This is the first guest of the podcast. She's an amazing human being, incredible woman. Just a little bit about her. Actually, I'll let her introduce herself. So, hey, Tati, she's Tatiana Miller, and I'll let her take it from here.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here and thrilled to see men having these conversations, because a lot of times you don't see that. So I'm proud of you guys, and thank you for having me. I have spent the past more than 20 years wanting to understand, is there a better way to live than suffering? Because suffering is part of the human condition, but it is a choice, right? There will always be suffering in our bodies, in our mind, situations that come at us, but our locus of control is us, and it is a choice. Because when you understand that and you start using the resources that Alec has been discussing, you know that suffering is optional. And I've spent my life studying how does the Eastern philosophy and medicine, so Eastern holistic medicine, come into play when most of the modern industrialized world lives in a Western mentality and a Western culture. And the Western culture is more masculine based. And I'm not talking about boy and girl. I'm talking about constructs of behavior, and that would be work. So the masculine perception of the culture is what you accomplish in your work makes you good or bad. And that's a simplified version of it. Versus Eastern holistic philosophy and medicine looks at how you feel is who you are. So we have two conflicting things, doing versus being. And that is the foundation of when we feel like we're swimming upstream, when we feel like we're going against the current. So I've spent a lot of years studying that and understanding that. And I've learned a lot of things that make life beautiful. Yet for those of us that haven't honed into this, it makes life torturous because we are going against the current. So I think based on what Alec was sharing and what we've seen, we have to look at the root of who we are from a different perspective of what we've accomplished or what our job is. So I am a woman, and I am Mexican, and I am Jewish, and I am a mom, and I am a therapist, and that's what that's the Western perspective. But if you were to ask me, who are you? This very profound question, who are you? It's taken me, many, many years to know who I am outside of those things. And that's your true identity. And who am I? I would say that I'm love, I'm passion, I'm awake, I'm aware, and that's who I am. And out of that is how I'm relating to my world every day, which then in turn, when I quit my job recently, I was still love and passion and awareness, right? There was a loss and there was grief with parting with that part of me, but I was still that deep sense of who I am. So understanding your identity from that perspective of being, I think, is fundamental. And then building on that as your root to looking at yourself as a being from mind, body, and spirit perspective. So your body will always tell you the truth. Your heartbeat is the rhythm of your soul, and it tells you good, bad, threat, non-threat. It gives you information. So does your breath. And if there's two things that I could invite you to explore are your breath and your heartbeat. If you can understand your breath and your heartbeat and know how to control those, you'll be good. You'll be good all the time, no matter what. That's the foundation of healing trauma, by the way, which all of us have a little bit of trauma here and there. But if you can conquer a really deep relationship with your breath and your heartbeat from the body perspective, you will have an even deeper awareness of your identity and that being of who you are. And then your mind. So Alexi and Alec and I were discussing what controls the body. Your body just doesn't know what to do, right? Your heart does not start beating faster when there's a threat on its own. Your brain perceives that threat. How? And I'm
Sensory.
asking.
Through
Senses,
the five
yes.
senses, yeah.
Yes. So, well, there's six senses.
There's six, yeah.
And this discussion is about developing that sixth sense, right? Which puts it all together. And we call it intuition because it's this deeper sense of knowing without a tangible explanation.
Yeah.
So there's six senses, and all of us have them. We lose it. There's a certain point in our life, depending on our nurturing and our environment and many, many different things, where we lose the ability to tap into that sixth sense. But if you've ever been around an animal or a child, you know that it's there because they use it and they don't even know that they're using it. So your senses are how you relate to the world, and your senses are what you bring into your mind, and therefore your body reacts.
Absolutely.
But what controls your mind? That was the question that I was asking you. So who controls the brain?
Your
The
internal
user,
spirit.
right? And there's two, you would say there's two sides of the brain. The one that's like automated, and then there's the one that we can control, right? Because as a human, we want to automate everything, so that way it's less taxing on our mental cognition, and that way we can give more to the things that are important to us. And then so we have to kind of, what this discussion is about is figuring out how to kind of override that automated system and change certain things so that way we can plug in beneficial programming that will help us to interocept, because that's what you're talking about with paying attention to your heart rate and your breathing. Is interoception, that interview of who we are and what our body's going through and what our body's trying to tell us. And like you said, like as we get older, we lose that sixth sense, and we just want to bring that back. And I love
Right.
you said that so beautifully, because
Yeah.
that's the whole idea behind this project, is to get people back in touch with that sixth sense, so that way they can start to
I like how you
live.
said bring that back. Yeah, I like how you said bring that back, because Ayurveda is the oldest known medical system in the history of humanity. And Ayurveda is what I specialized in my studies. And Ayurveda says that any disease, mental, physical, stems from forgetting your true nature of self, forgetting who you are. So the moment you forget who you are, which is different for everybody, disease begins in the body, in the mind, in the spirit. And so rooting back into who you are is the ultimate health insurance for living a healthy, functional life. And how do we do that? You start by looking at, how did I get to where I am? So you start to examine so I have an idea. Okay, so close your eyes. This is the easiest way to do it. So close your eyes. And I want you to bring into your mind's eye, into your awareness, a rose. I want you to see the rose. I want you to know the color of the rose, to know how the rose smells. And now open your eyes. Okay, so Alec, what color was your rose?
Mine was a bluish green. It was like blue at the base and then had green at the tip of the petals, and in between it was like white. It was like white streaks on the petals. So it was like multiple colors.
Cool. And what about yours, Alexi?
Mine was pink with like, as it would go, pink at the top, and as you go down, it gets to like white towards the stem. Kind of
Interesting, right?
thing. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so where did that construct, so we all build these constructs in our brain space, and they get put into like these containers, right? These like Tupperwares in our brain. That's how our brain holds information. Where did that, your idea of what you identify and see as a rose, where did that come from? And why was Alex so distinctly different from Alexi's?
Yeah, I like that question. Mine was pink because that's my mom's favorite color of roses.
Exactly.
And like she has them in her garden, and it's her favorite. So I mean, that's why I saw that
So
right away.
your history and the beliefs, because mom was like, I love my roses and they're pink and they're beautiful, right? That got embedded into you as to
Yeah.
what a rose is. And if you have a girlfriend or wanted to do something nice for somebody, you would say, oh, they must like pink roses because roses are awesome, right? Because it comes from how we become who we are, which is our environment, our culture, what is modeled to us, what we're taught, right? That's how you got to who you are. And I'm sure Alex Rose is a similar thing, things that have happened to him, things so that he has seen. And that comes from your spirit, that comes from your soul. That doesn't get stored in your brain. Your brain stores energy. And so you're not walking around your entire day with pictures of things that are stored in you, right? Because that's a mental illness and it's called hallucinations. And we don't all walk around like that. We walk around and we pull, we retrieve, just like a computer. That's like the freak. Huh?
Historical
Yeah.
information.
Yeah,
data.
that's the freaky part about computers. They're like sort of a hologram of human beings. We pull it right from the ether, from nothing, and we retrieve it when we need it, and we project it out. And then we move on to the next thing. So that's why keeping with the integrity of mind, body, and spirit, and knowing your identity in each one and looking at how each one interplays with the other is who you are. You can't just focus on one by ignoring the others, because it's like a web. They're all linked.
Absolutely. And that brings me to an idea, not an idea, actually, a topic of discussion that we've been talking about recently, which is the bottom up instinct or the bottom up salience stimuli that we have or pulling from the memory, and then top down autonomization. So basically, the concept is, sorry, my camera's being a little funky today because of the light sensitivity. There we go. We're good.
Jesus.
There we go. Instinctive attention deployment is driven by salient stimuli in the body. So my heart beats on its own because there's a salient inside me that is my heartbeat. I breathe on my own because there's a salient system that I breathe on my own. So that's instinctive reaction, if you will. When I have internal emotional triggers, that can fire me up. I have internal emotional triggers that can calm me down. And those internal bottom-up salient mechanisms are different for everyone. As vice versa, conversely, the attention that we guide to certain things focus top-down salience. So, you know, if I'm thirsty, I will top-down tell myself, go to the fridge, get water. Right? If I'm hungry, I will top-down tell myself, go see food. But we can also use, and what Alexi and I have been speaking of recently, we can also use those desire dopaminergic neuromodulatory systems to actually pursue goals, ambitions, passions.
Yeah, absolutely. But you cannot do that unless you have a solid foundation and root in understanding who you are, what is your identity. That's like the root of you being able to go deeper into it, because it's like math. If I don't understand the basics of why I react, because reactivity, when you're dealing with the world and when you are a human, reactivity is, well, look at the world today. That's why we are where we are. Because of quick fixes, because of reactivity, because of polarization. And there's
switching. Context switching.
Exactly.
Always.
Yeah. So you have to set a good root in being able to root into yourself before you can accomplish anything deeper than that. Otherwise, it's superficial.
And so you're saying, like, to create that awareness, we must somehow get people to understand that who you are, this identity comes from within us and not from the exterior stimuli that we're constantly around. Because, I mean, we think that we are like our parents and all these things, but that's just programming from the external, where as you become a mature adult and a free thinking human, you can start to look inside you and say, I'm different than these people around me. Why do I think this way? And then because I love the way that you said it, because you were saying you are like, I am who I am, not what I do. My identity comes from who I am, not what I do. And all the things you said, love, passion, that comes from within you, and then you share that with the world. Whereas most people think that the things around us we take in, and that becomes who we are. And
you learn, right? Hopefully,
yeah.
you learn that you have this bubble. And I wrote a kid's book about this, and it's called You Can't Pop My Bubble. Because if we would remember as adults that there's a choice, right? Alec can call me a bitch, and I can accept that, or I can reject that. And I can spend all day upset and angry and sad and frustrated because he called me a bitch, or I can just be like, yeah, you're wrong, and you're
reject it and move on,
and you're not going to pop my bubble, and you're not going to penetrate my space, because I know who I am,
and you're in control,
and I'm in control. And if I'm going to be a bitch, you'll know it, because I'm choosing that, And so I think that we're not teaching young people how to be humans, which is like one of my goals, is to have a course and write a book that's called How to Be a Human, because there's many adults that don't know how to be humans. And what happens is that we start seeing anxiety, depression, addiction, dissociation, and all that those things are a crisis. And a crisis occurs when what is happening inside of us, we don't have enough resources to cope with. And so
Or
how do we
knowledge of its
avoid that?
purpose.
Yes, yes,
Because
yes.
I mean, the anxiety and the depression, they have a evolutionary purpose. Like they wouldn't exist if they weren't adaptive. You know, so there's a
Right.
reason why we go through those, and it's usually to get us off our ass and to like do
Exactly.
something with our lives.
Yeah,
But
fight or flight. It's fight or flight. Depression and anxiety's roots are, do I need to fight? Anxiety, right? Like energy, do something with it. Fight. Depression is stop, retreat, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And those are the foundations. But we've become so reactive in our society that no one's learning to be proactive. And proactive are the things that you and Alec were saying. Like, are you tracking your sleep? Are you paying attention to what you eat? Are you keeping yourself healthy? Because if you think of yourself like a container, right?
Right.
Your container is going to be as strong, meaning your body, as your habits.
Right. Absolutely.
That's your foundation. Sorry, I need to plug my computer in.
You're good.
And that's your foundation. Your foundation is, you know, if I have great daily habits, then I'm strong. I'm showing up strong for life.
Right.
For the person accusing me of being a bitch, for my car breaking down, for, you know, meeting somebody, for showing up to a conversation and not being distracted. So do you guys know, this is something really interesting. I did a presentation the other day, and guess what the average attention span of a teenager is?
I'm gonna say 30 seconds.
no, less. Like
Less? Oh,
You're
shit.
on, Alexi. Good job.
5 seconds.
You know how terrifying that is?
You know what's crazy though, Tati and Alexi? That's how fast you're context switching when you're scrolling on your phone.
Which is
Yeah.
why electronics are the devil to our soul.
Well, okay. Pause.
Now wait, this is a good use of it.
Electronics are the devil to your soul when you use them for
They have the
dopaminergic
potential to be.
reward system. Like when you're hot wiring, when you're hijacking your limbic system for reward seeking behavior, right? I feel bad about myself. I go on my phone. I feel bored. I go on my phone. So
yeah,
now,
but you're talking about 95% of the population. And so that's being predatory on the vulnerable. What these big tech companies are doing is they're smart, right? How do you sell anything? You find a problem and you find a solution to the problem and you sell
expose it.
And
You
that's what they've
expose it.
done, because like I said, we're not training young people. We weren't trained. Our parents sure as hell weren't trained to know how to be beings.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed. To be like what we are evolutionarily created to do and to be.
Exactly. And so
yeah, we've gotten so far away from like who we are as a being. We're ancient bodies in a modern society.
Exactly.
And you can really see that it's having a detriment to everyone. A lot of people want to say, "Oh, our youth is fucked," but it's like everybody. It's not just the youth.
No, you know what I think is interesting? I'm right at the cusp of like what people call millennials. I'm about to be 40. So my belief from a spiritual perspective is that generation, I don't like the woke thing, which is a whole other conversation, but that generation is more awake to where I was when I was 15 years old and said, there has to be a better way of living than this, which was where my journey started in spirituality, in holistic medicine. I think that because that generation has not had to fend for survival, because their parents got to a place where people were comfortable, most people, they had a house. I'm talking about the American society. They had a home, you know, people were making money, they were buying cars. There's, you know, the Walmarts where you now have 100 things instead of having to save your money to get one good thing. You can, with $5, get 16 things that are crap. And so that mentality, right, of not having to survive gave these young people a lot of time to think and ponder, whether that be think and ponder good things or think and ponder bad things. It created this new generation that was like, we're really comfortable, but what's the meaning of this? Versus other generations that were fighting to survive, like women were fighting to be let into the workplace, and before that was war, and before that was establishing a country, and those
And
struggles are gone.
segregation
Yeah,
and equality and
right.
like everybody had a purpose, and now we've gotten to the state where we're all so comfortable that like we're literally allowing our nation state to decide our purpose.
Exactly, which is
Which is
wrong.
Horrible.
Wrong, because that's why this country started in the first place. Freedom. Right? That you see cycles in history because, oh, wait, we're humans and humans have patterns of behavior. Unless you do deep work like this and you go deep and you get uncomfortable and you make decisions to be in charge, not to be guided, because that's what they're doing, is just guiding people. And people are unaware and scared and in an anxiety state and in a depressive state, and they're just going to flow along without even thinking about it.
And I
Because they see
think
the herd.
I think a big problem with that is they don't understand the purpose of why they're feeling anxious or they're feeling depressed or why they're feeling uncomfortable. Like in the beginning, you said that suffering is optional, and so do you think that these people, like everybody, views uncomfortability as some sort of suffrage?
Yes, because
And
we've been so comfortable. That generation specifically was so comfortable that being uncomfortable is such a threat to them. And this generation of everybody gets a trophy, what is that teaching people? Never be
yeah, nothing.
uncomfortable,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
never
why am I
struggle.
going to
Yeah,
bust my ass to run faster if I'm still going to get a trophy? I'm not going to
yeah.
grow and be better and train hard and go to sleep on time and drink my water and eat healthy, because I can show up with my big belly and run super slow and still get a trophy. Like, but that is hurting. That's hurting us.
Hurting us.
This
Yeah,
That's not
absolutely.
promoting growth. That's not promoting a mentality
Competition.
or even a mentality of like, never stop improving yourself. The moment
Yeah.
you are satisfied and comfortable is the moment you start to die, even if you're alive.
Shoot,
That's the moment you
powerful.
start to die. Like, you've known me for a long time, Alec. Every time I'm always reinventing, I'm always seeking, I'm always searching, because that's what's going to keep me passionate.
Absolutely.
But it took me a really long time and some very hard, anxious, depressed moments in my life to realize that. But
Right.
you know,
It
and
took those moments of uncomfortability to realize that. But
exactly.
like we have such a tool to avoid all that, where it's like I'm feeling uncomfortable, I'm gonna just go on the internet and read something, or I'm gonna go watch a video about somebody that's gonna make me feel motivated for a second
Distract
or two.
myself.
And
Yeah.
it's like,
Or
yeah, it's like,
I don't even have to be anyone, because at every moment I can pretend to be someone else. I can have a profile that says I'm a surfer and another one that says I'm a ballerina, and I don't have to be anything.
Oh,
that's
shoot.
true.
It's
So
such a false reality.
so it's like getting back to like creating this awareness and this understanding. It's like if we can help people create an understanding of and try to change their perception of what suffrage and uncomfortability is, and like that there's a purpose for it, and that it's building you a stronger foundation, and it's going to help you rise beyond your belief. If we can create that understanding, do you think that's like kind of the ticket to this
Yeah.
this mindset that we want to be in?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like flavors. So think about your senses. Think about any sense, right? Think about a screechy noise that makes your ear hurt versus music that makes you want to dance and feel good, right? How would you know that one is making you feel good if you didn't have the other? Same thing
Right.
with flavors. How do you know that something's gone bad? How do you know that milk has gone bad if you don't know what it tastes like when it's still good? And so you can't be scared of moving through life and what's going to happen to you because you're trying to avoid being uncomfortable. You have to be courageous and tackle things as they come. But in order to do that, you need tools. You need to build a toolbox, which is what you and Alec are referring to, is that ability to have and know what is even interception. I mean, my husband's a physiologist. He teaches entire courses on that, right? To athletes. But not only athletes need to know that.
No,
Right.
everybody
Normal human
needs
beings
to.
need to know that, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
we have all of these awesome modern tools available to us, but people don't even know where to start. If I'm depressed, how am I supposed to know to start with biofeedback?
Right. And like
But
recalibrating your own internal compass.
right, or that's even possible, because when people are anxious and depressed, they get into these cycles in their brain of stress loops. And once you're in that stress loop, it's like addiction. I talk to many addicts that are like, I know this is bad for me. I know this is hurting me. I know this is hurting my family, but I cannot stop. Because once you're in that loop, it's very difficult to stop.
Yeah, it's almost like that loop becomes more comforting than understanding what life is like without it.
You are going to always be more comfortable with what you know than what
And
you
the
don't.
unknown.
And I'll give you a really sad example. Children that have been abused by their caretakers, when CPS or the police show up to remove them from people that are physically or sexually abusive to them, guess what they do? They reach
cling.
out to them.
They cling to them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they don't know any better, right?
They don't know
They
better.
don't-
They're what they know is what they're comfortable with. You're always more comfortable with what you know than what you don't know. And that
we need
is
to reframe that. We need to reframe that the unknown is actually potential possibility for greatness, potential possibility for healing, potential possibility for change. And that change, that inevitable change that Aristotle talked about when he talked about his theories of time, is the actual mechanism that allows us to evolve.
so. Even if you go back, I like to teach holistic medicine from the perspective of, starting with the root, which is energy. And if you go back to physics class, right, and you learned something very, very important, which is, it totally summarizes what we're talking about, right?
Thermodynamics.
Thermodynamics.
Yeah, if you guys get it, right? And Einstein,
Yeah,
who
of
was
course.
idiot and who was told that, his mom had to pull him out of school because they told her that he was crazy and stupid, and right, and he discovered the foundation of who we are and of life, right? Energy cannot be
Changed,
created or destroyed.
created or destroyed.
It
It can only be
transformed. Bam, period, end of story. If you understand that, you understand who you are, you understand the power inside of you. So if I'm sitting here and I get mad, that's energy in my body.
Right.
And I'm either going to use that energy to tell him to fuck off and hurt him and then send another cycle going on, or I'm going to use that energy and go for a jog.
Right.
Internalize it. I like it.
Use that energy, right?
But this is where that top-down understanding of like
Yes.
my awareness is what guides me to actually transform the energy around me.
Exactly, because how you show up to any situation, how you show up energetically is going to dictate the outcome
Of that
of
situation.
that conversation.
Absolutely.
So I was asked to go speak at a private school to a group of girls that were about to graduate, and they wanted a woman mentor that was an entrepreneur. So I went and I sat with them. Be it important to note, this was at a private school. And I went and I sat and I said, okay, tell me a little bit about your group and how can I help you? I was there to give a talk. And the leader of the group raised her hand and she said, well, life isn't fair for girls. And so we're trying to understand, how are we going to be able to make it in the world? And I was like, time out. I said, time out, sister.
Yeah.
I was like, do you have a home? Yes. Do you go to a private school and have a great education? Yes. Do you have a car? Yes. Do you get to go on vacations? Yes. And I said, so how are you at a disadvantage? Like, just wanting to understand. How are you at a disadvantage? Well, I don't know. And I said, well, let me tell you something. If you show up to an interview with me and you show up with this attitude, I'm not going to hire you. Not because you're a girl, but because of your shitty attitude and your inability to see the gifts that you have and the weaknesses that you have. If you show up thinking I'm less than and I'm defeated and I'm not good enough, that's what people are going to see.
Because that's the energy.
That's the energy you're giving out.
Absolutely.
That's the energy you're giving out. And if you think you're uncomfortable in a private school environment, little girl, like,
welcome to the world.
Yeah. And that has to do with they haven't seen the other side, right?
Exactly. That's my point. They're so comfortable that they have nothing to do. So they create this story about how things aren't fair and how uncomfortable they are, when the three of us know that, Cruella DeVille is out there and she'll eat you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And she'll make you a fur.
Yeah, life can be unfair to everybody. It doesn't take sides or play favorites.
You hit on a huge fundamental principle that I think a lot of humans have, is we build these narratives in our head. We build these stories. Essentially, evolution tells us we're just naked monkeys wearing clothes.
Right.
And that is one thing that has led us to where we are today, is we have the ability to retain knowledge, document these stories, pass it on for generations, which become wisdom.
Yeah, you break cycles and you do it in your mind, but you can't break the cycle unless you know what the cycle is.
Exactly.
Like with soccer training, how do I know what tactical skills I need to work on if I don't have an assessment? How do I know?
You don't.
You don't know unless somebody helps you and you have an assessment, or you do it on your own. Like, can I make this kick? Can I do this? Can I do that? But you have to know where you are so that you know where you need to start working from, or what you need to rewrite, because you can rewrite. I've worked with trauma victims, and you rewrite their relationship to the incident. You rewrite their relationship to the trauma. But I can't do that with them unless I know what their actual relationship is and how that's impacted them. And from there, you start to recreate that same situation with how you want it to feel.
Absolutely. Now, quick question, Duffy.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish if you want to finish that thought.
I lost it. It's gone.
Okay, you're good. So, is there a difference between awareness and attention?
Yes.
Okay. And
yes, absolutely. People, I'll put it to you this way, and a lot of people with ADD and ADHD. People with ADD and ADHD are aware, but cannot focus their attention. But they're very aware, but they're unable to focus their attention. So
So could you
Awareness.
say is like awareness is a modality of life and attention is a modality of like being?
Both are learned practices. Both awareness and attention are learned practices. So think of an FBI agent. Their entire training is head on a swivel, right? Always be aware. Be aware of what's moving over here. Be aware of what's above you. Be aware of what's behind you. That is the training. And the same training that those FBI agents have when they're guarding people or looking out for situations is the training that we should do within ourselves of how's my body feeling? How's my mind doing? How's my soul doing? Every day. That is what meditation is, a training in how to be aware and present. When you can be aware and present at every moment, like when you asked me what was your thought, I'm so into you guys right now that I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say. It's flowing out of me. So when I stop, I don't know where
You don't
that
remember. Yeah,
is
yeah.
flowing through me because I'm present. This wasn't planned. You know, I'm aware of what you guys are saying. I'm aware of what comes to me that I say to you, and my attention is focused on an engaging conversation, not what I had planned to say.
Yeah, like not trying to get your opinion across.
Right,
It's
right,
more of like a reaction to kind of what we're saying
right,
and trying to attend to what we're saying and the topics we're on.
right.
Uh,
Like I'll give you an example that I think will be very relatable to you guys. I watched this documentary with Ronaldo where researchers wanted to understand if people at his level, like a Michael Jordan, like a Ronaldo, like what's happening in their brain. So we're talking about an EEG. What's happening in their brain when they are on the pitch, when they're where they are at their best, right? Because you think of these athletes as super beings, right? However, if you know the stories of these athletes, you know that the super beingness comes from a shit ton of practice and dedication and focus, right? So what happens when they step on that pitch and they have machines tracking their brain waves? They're not thinking at all. They're in a state of being and awareness, and their attention is focused on the ball. They're
yeah,
one, they're one with the ball. That's it. Their brain isn't working. They're in a dreamlike state.
that flow state is what they
Wow.
call.
Like a flow state.
And then like because you can only get into a flow state when you have knowledge or you know what you're doing. You know, like when you're learning something, you can't get into a flow state.
No.
People like to say I'm in a like I'm flowing as you're learning, but I like how you said that. Like there's not a lot of thought process going on. It's I see this, I do this. I see that, I gotta go this way. You know,
They're
and
tapped into their instinct.
Instinct.
They're tapped
mm-hmm,
into their
Instinct.
instinct. And that's that sixth sense that I told you guys. They are tapped into their sixth sense. And here's what's even more interesting their brain waves are very, very, very similar in the middle. Like a Ronaldo brainwave, when he's on that pitch scoring a goal, is similar to a monk in deep meditation.
Wow. Like theta.
Yeah.
Like theta.
Yeah. That's
really.
why athletes, that's all they can do. Like this is me being, right? Like I'm driven to this. Like my son who soccer, he says soccer is his girlfriend. Like that's where he feels alive, and it's easy. It's easy to be him because he's just flowing.
Yeah, that gave me goosebumps.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
no, definitely. I think Alec would say the same, and I definitely say the same for myself. Like that's where I've always felt the most me,
Mhm.
is on the field, and I'm trying to carry that over into my everyday life, which is what I think athletes have a lot of trouble with is taking that and implementing it once they retire or once their career is done is like implementing who they are, that the person they were on the field into their life. Because I used to definitely identify myself as a soccer player, but that's not who I am. That's just what I did, right? Who I am were the things that I carried out on the field. You know, tenacity, passionate, loving, caring for my brothers next to me. Those qualities are what made me a great player, not my skill set, I guess you would say.
No, it's that I've talked to a lot of recruiters, athletic recruiters that are friends of mine, and I actually have worked with one Olympic athlete in the Miami Dolphins. And the interesting thing about athletes is that they are so insanely in tune with the ball or the racket or whatever their sport is, or the horse, that they don't even think about it, right? It's not a processing thing, it's a feeling. It's a feeling thing. So what you loved was the feeling of it being easy and feeling good, and that those natural endorphins that flow through you when you're winning, or the same endorphins flow through you when you're losing, because your nervous system can only recognize two things, right? Whether you just scored the winning goal in the last minute of the game, or you're being held up at gunpoint, your nervous system is going to react the exact same way. It's going to feel endorphins rushing through the spinal cord, being spread out to the body, and it's going to tell you to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between a threat and a happy emotion, right? Celebrating the goal, your body feels the same thing and reacts the same way.
Elevated heart rate, all these things.
Being held up at gunpoint. And so what you liked when you were on the field was those feelings and that ability to flow through things. And it can be translated, but how can you translate it if you don't know what you're translating?
Right.
Because what we're talking about
Absolutely.
is the language of being. This is like Hebrew, Spanish, English. So how can I take it from English to Spanish if I don't know I'm speaking English?
Right.
Absolutely.
Now, quick question, Tatiana. Can you train your awareness to understand these like electrical and chemical impulses in your
That's
brain?
biofeedback. I'm still here.
Okay.
That's called biofeedback, but it takes practice.
Okay.
It takes practice, and it's science. That's why I went back to school, even though I already had a degree, and studied science profoundly, anatomy, physiology, physics, all of those things, because we are a micro representation of nature.
Right.
And you have to understand the science of nature. Why does a bird know when to turn? The birds aren't saying, "Hey dude, we're about to turn. Hey dude, turn signal, turn signal." They just switch directions. They just do it seamlessly. How do they know?
Synchronicity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do they know? Because they're so tapped in, they're so tuned in.
So what would training your awareness and attention be like?
It has to be a daily practice.
Okay.
It has to be a relationship. It's a relationship. And I always recommend to people, and if you guys want to do it with me, I'm totally for it, because I have a ton of knowledge in my brain, but not enough ability to put it all out there. So I wrote this guide a long time ago that's called How to Create a Morning Routine to Relieve Anxiety. And in my opinion, and through a lot of research, these daily routines to tune in and tap in and practice presence and awareness are the key to changing your brain. They change the neuroplasticity of your brain. Gray matter is a big component in any rehab, like when people get hurt, but also in mental illness and in an ability to think and development of dementia and all that. And it's been proven that it changes the matter in your brain. So it's like medicine for your mind, body, and spirit. And we can write it for athletes, because there's a lot of things that athletes understand that the general population doesn't, right? Unless you've gotten your booty up at 6 a.m. to play in a game, and you've trained for years and years, as college athletes have, as professional athletes have, you don't have that intrinsic understanding of discipline. Athletes already have that understanding of discipline, so they have this leg up, right? Because they already know what it's like to be dedicated to something, and the why behind it. Most
Right.
people struggle with the discipline of it.
Right. Okay, that's
Absolutely.
huge.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
then
so before
sorry,
we go ahead.
let me ask this question because it's kind of on that topic. So, like Alec was talking about how you train attentiveness and or focus, or and what would you say that it's like? Say you're doing a meditation practice, which is attention to your breath or to your heart rate. It's more about like not staying in that focused state or that attentive state, but more about recognizing that I've lost focus 5 times in this meditation state. Next time I go, can I maybe try to do it 3 times, or
I would
like
I would
bringing the
even go
awareness that you're losing your focus and attention rather than worrying about how long I was focused for. Does that make
I
sense?
would even go one step further, and like I really do believe like a meditative practice is just allowing yourself to expand so much that whatever is internally subconscious driving you right now in that moment will bubble up.
So
It's allowing the water inside you to settle so that you see the bubbles.
right, but some
Like,
people have fire instead of water, and so I'll tell you this: there's different types of meditation. There's different types, right? There's gazing meditations for people that are like ADD and ADHD. There's breathing meditations, but breathing meditations are going to sometimes exacerbate anxiety versus helping it, because when you're bringing oxygen into your body and you're anxious, anxiety is air. Anxiety is a tornado out of control. So you're fueling the anxiety. So it depends on where you are and where you've been, what you need, right? Medicine for your mind, body, and spirit, as meditation is not a one size fits all prescription, right? Different people are going to need different things because we're all unique individuals. Some people, just the thought of sitting still for 5 minutes is torturous, right? So I would recommend for them a walking meditation, because that's
right?
meditation. Some people love to sit still and they're super comfortable in it. So for them, a sitting meditation. Some people have chronic pain, and that their meditation would be focusing their awareness on what feels good in their body, to retrain their relationship with their body from their body betraying them to their body actually being their friend and being there for them. So it really depends on the situation and the humanity of it, what the meditation should be, because the beauty of meditation is that it can be so many things, right? One of my favorite meditations is to just smile for a minute at nothing, just like,
Just smile.
I like that.
yeah, you just smile for a minute and you're like, oh my gosh, the energy's changing, right? It's like changing.
That's true. Yeah, like my
Yeah.
favorite would be gratefulness meditation. Just going for a walk and
Yes.
just trying to just list off as many things as I possibly can that I'm grateful about. That's definitely something that I enjoy the most in terms of meditation.
I love that.
That's awesome.
And some people like to journal, and that's their meditation. They journal the things they're grateful for. It's about finding what works for you so that you can stick with it, and also being able to take the time to create the awareness, right? It's like with yoga.
Right.
It's like with
you
yoga.
don't want it to be a chore.
Right. It's like with yoga. The hardest part is showing up.
Yeah.
The hardest part is getting your mat into the right place. That's it. That's the hardest part. And so meditation is just about like, are you showing up? That's why morning routines are so important, because it's like setting up the GPS for the rest of your day.
Right. I love that.
That's
Okay,
the
so before we wrap things up, Tatiana, you've been amazing. We have actually been doing, so the Salience Project is also like an optimization project, and we have a scorecard that we've built for our daily habits. And I just wanted to go over them with you. And then if you wanted to add something or, discuss something, we would love your insight.
Okay.
So the 4 parts of our daily scorecard is focused breathing, or NSDR, which is non-sleep deep rest protocol, for 10 minutes. And then while you're doing that, you're setting intentions or giving affirmation, or, just creating a dialogue with yourself about your identity. The second part of our scorecard is no technology or attention-free zones, where you can completely be present with yourself for at least 1 hour a day, where it's just you, yourself, your thoughts, and nothing distracting you or grasping at your attention, reaching for your attention. The third protocol is light viewing in the morning. So early morning sunrise, and then 10 minutes, and then sunset. And there's a lot of science behind this, with your circadian rhythm, helping sleep patterns, helping the neuromodulators release in your brain accordingly. And it also helps
You know who invented that, waking up with the sun and sleep cycles and biorhythms?
Who invented that? Wasn't
Yeah.
it just like evolution of human beings?
No, it was first prescribed through Ayurveda.
Oh,
Really?
okay. Well, now we know that the optic nerve actually receives photo information. What's it called, Alexi?
The
Photoreceptive.
photoreceptor, right? So
Yeah.
it's in our eye, but it's not for vision. It's just for light sensitivity. And then so when you view light in the morning, it kind of begins to release cortisol. It lets the brain know, like, hey, it's morning. Like, let's release some cortisol. Let's get you waking up a little bit.
Yeah, biorhythms are super important to honor. That's
And
why
then the last bit of the protocol is one interoceptive journal entry with a date, a theme, and then minimum 1 word. Those are our protocols. Those are our daily scorecards. So if you do those 4 things every day, we're really just tracking to see how they affect our lives, our interpersonal lives. And then we're also gathering more data from other people to see how
I think those are really great. I would just highly, highly recommend, because I'm looking at it from a holistic perspective, right? I'm looking at, we definitely got the mind a lot. You tapped into it really well. You definitely are tapping into soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, really well. But something that is really important to learn to do is learn where in your body you're feeling tension, because that's going to directly correlate to emotions you're holding on to, things you're struggling with. Anytime you hold tension in the body, it's saying to the nervous system, fight or flight. Anytime you're holding tension in the body. So learning, it's called a body scan. There's a ton of YouTube guided meditations.
Love that.
Which are free. Learning to do a body scan.
There's actually a great one by Dan Siegel. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Yeah, I know Dan Siegel. So body scans to me are medicine. You should do them all the time. It's a clearing for yourself. It'll also help you create a baseline of feeling good, so that when you have interactions or when you have situations where your shoulder goes like this or your jaw clenches, you immediately know, like, okay, reset, right? And you just automatically know that you need to reset, and you learn that energy cannot be changed or created. It can only be transformed. And you learn and feel empowered to transform places of tension and let your body feel good, because your body is your biography. So
say that again. I missed that.
Your body is your biography. Your body is your biography.
Okay. I like that.
Awesome.
And it keeps score. So a lot of diseases have been proven to be linked to unresolved emotions. So the biggest amount of heart attacks always happen on Monday mornings. Why?
Because you gotta go to work, and most people hate their work.
Exactly.
But that's where I was getting to. Like, our body speaks to our mind. Like, our body's trying to let us know, like, yo, something's not right. Can you fix it for us? Because we can't do it ourselves.
Right, but your brain's going, I'm just sending you the signals that I receive. So what do you want me to do about it?
Right, because okay.
Right. And then so
Because
we
you're
have
still in the
we
driver's
have to
seat.
intervene in that. Yeah. Too many
Yeah,
people
yeah,
kind of
that's
let
where
the
the
let,
soul
like
and
put
the
it in
spirit
autopilot. Put
right.
their lives in
And
autopilot.
and that's the thing. Most people are operating on autopilot. Most people are. Like you hear all these stories of like, you know, people that were very, very sick and didn't realize it. Well, their body was telling them. There was bleeding, there was bloating, there was this, there was that. They were just like, oh yeah, I'm bloated, not even
Let's
noticing,
keep
you
going.
know, or yeah, I've had
Yeah.
heartburn for 5 years. Continue on, you know.
Let's keep going. I'll just deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's
Like,
being on autopilot. That's being on autopilot. Um,
Sweet.
so
that's it.
And finally,
That's it.
Tatiana, is there any book or you know, somebody who's been really influential in your life that you would guide people towards listening to or reading on that has been influential in your journey?
I love Deepak Chopra. I studied
Okay.
with him. He's great. He's one of the first Western doctors he's an MD, and he is a big advocate for Ayurveda. He's a big advocate for Eastern psychology. And he has a really fun accent and a really great voice. And he has a ton of books and a ton of videos, a ton of meditations. In fact, he has a healing meditation that I used when I had my back surgery, and it's amazing. So I would definitely look up his stuff and read his stuff.
Cool. And then finally, where can people find and connect with you? Where online can they find you?
So I have a website called RX, the number 4, and then lifemovement.org. And, or you can Google me. I'm on LinkedIn, Tatiana Miller. I'm not a big social media person for a lot of the things that I've mentioned, but always email me or reach out to Alec. He knows how to find me if you have questions or want to know more.
Cool.
I do like sessions like this with people on telemedicine stuff, give talks and do workshops. But I think what you guys are doing is great, and I'm so proud of you, and I think it's awesome. And I hope that more and more people start to do that, because I really believe that we are in a place in our humanity where those of us that are on this journey of seeking and introspection, it is survival of the fittest right now. And those of us that are seeking light and are sharing light are going to fare out a lot better than the people that are in darkness.
For sure.
I
All
like
right.
that a
And that
lot.
wraps up
Yeah.
this show for today. Alexi, hope you have an amazing day in Florida.
Hi, Alexi.
Of course.
You've been
Nice meeting you.
amazing.
I'll be in Texas soon.
You too. Okay, yeah, come meet me.
I will.
All
I'll be
right,
in
guys.
Dallas on Friday, so hopefully Alec can
Oh, you
introduce
will?
us. Yeah.
All right. Bye.
All right.
All right. Bye,
See ya.
guys.
Thank you so much.
All
Peace,
right.
bro.
That's a wrap, bro.
I'll call you later.
All right.